I'm starting off with a totally unrelated anecdote, but when Vint was here to become honorary doctor of University Twente, I had invited him over to do so. I was professor at this university at that time, and he asked whether he could bring his wife, and he did so, and they stayed at my house for 2 nights, and his wife had asked whether we could eat something really typically Dutch. So my wife and I fought really hard, and we gave them boerenkool met worst. And I don't know whether he'll ever ask again for typical Dutch food after that. Anyway, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about the permissionless innovation that Vint mentioned, because I think that's the fundamental driving force that the internet has given us to develop our society and our economy. It is the basis for all the incredibly fast developments that we've seen, and many startups are benefiting from it. It allows us to build upon each other's ideas much faster than in the classical way, where something had to be published in a reviewed journal or something like that, and it took years and years. Now we can go much faster. The internet and permissionless innovation disrupts business models. Large businesses like Kodak go out of business because of the things that evolve in and around the internet. And it's not just limited to the music industry and the movie industry. By the way, have you noticed that the music industry first made all the errors with regard to the internet, and the movie industry copied the same errors 5 years later, and that the electronic publishing of books is now copying exactly the same errors 5 years down the road? But anyway, all these business models are going to be disrupted. Think of the leisure industry, for example. If you had told the leisure industry 5 years ago that their whole transportation mechanism would be disrupted by a company that would own no car, bus, or anything like that, called Uber, or that their whole housing system would be disrupted by a company that owns no real estate whatsoever, Airbnb. Banks are going to be disrupted, take my word for it. They're arrogant, they think they survived the crisis and they can go back to their old business models, that crowdfunding is nowhere near to threatening them, but at the same time it is threatening them. Look at transactions and the transaction industry, that's also changing and moving away from banks. By the way, for crowdfunding, my favorite example, I have here a Pebble smartwatch. I had the first generation that was on Kickstarter. They asked for $300,000 on Kickstarter. They raised 10 million in 30 days. Then they went for this third generation that looks more like a watch than a smartwatch, and they needed 25 million for that. Did they go to a bank as an established company? No, they didn't. They went to Kickstarter, and they asked for 25 million. It took them 25 hours to get $25 million, right? So if you think crowdfunding isn't working, think again. So the internet disrupts business models. It also topples governments, right? The Arabic Spring has shown us that. That doesn't mean that the internet brings the solution for after the government has been toppled, and we all know that, but it does threaten governments, and governments are scared because of that. And that internet is become so important, so much a part of our life, that we really need it for our society, for our economy, and for startups to be successful. It allows startups in the Netherlands, which normally had a relatively small area which they could cover, to immediately cover, through the internet, the whole world as their customer base. That same internet is, of course, also threatened. It's threatened by cybercrime, cyberterrorism. It's threatened by big companies like Facebook and Google, who make you believe that they are the internet and you don't need the open internet. However, Facebook is a private space and the internet is an open space. And the difference is quite significant, right? You can do whatever you want in an open space, and there's no one other than the law to restrict you. In a private space, you can only do what's allowed in the private space. If you're in the IKEA, you can't undress. You're not allowed to, right? If you're on Facebook, you can't say nasty things about Erdogan, you're not allowed to, you will be removed. So we need the open internet besides the big Facebook and Google stuff. And the third threat, of course, to the internet are governments. Governments who've become so afraid that they're doing strange things to the internet. They use it for mass surveillance, invading your privacy, although you haven't done anything. And the argument being that if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry. Well, my response to that is I've got nothing to hide and it's none of your business. And at the same time, these governments, and that's probably even worse, Snowden has shown us, they really, on purpose, are weakening the technology of the internet. They put bugs and backdoors into all kinds of internet infrastructure. And the silly notion there is that only the good guys will use those backdoors. Now, let's assume that the police comes to you and says, please leave your back door of your house open tonight because we're going to check whether everything is okay. Would you do that? I'm just saying. So, what can you do? What can you do on the internet? What are the chances for entrepreneurs, for startups? Well, there's lots and lots of chances out there. Vint mentioned, the apps mentioned, the cloud space, and of course the Internet of Things you can add to that, which brings an enormous amount of new opportunities for new businesses, new models, and new ventures. The things that I would want to mention then is if you go into this and if you look at IoT apps and cloud, it's mostly software. And that means software, like Vint says, gives you an enormous amount of opportunities, but you need some unique selling points. And what are the unique selling points, besides your own good idea, that I think you should be focusing on, and which can make sure that you from the Netherlands can make the difference compared to all the companies out there? First of all, scalability. If I've seen one thing in my 31 years on the internet, is that every enthusiastic entrepreneur starts out by writing software and developing something that works for 100 people, maybe 1,000 people, but as soon as it gets 1 million customers, everything breaks down. Bring scalability into your product from the beginning. The second thing is availability and robustness. The third thing is safety, and the fourth thing, security. Build all those things in from the beginning. But I think the one that really stands out if you would do it right now and would make you unique, would make your product unique, and would help the Netherlands to become a unique place for entrepreneurs, is if you build in privacy right from the beginning. Here at Twente University and Nijmegen University, we have developed protocols for privacy by design. A lot of research has been done. If you incorporate that into your software product is going to be really, really unique and stand out compared to comparable software products. Last thing I want to say is not every new startup should be aimed at profit making. I see more and more startups on the internet that have a societal goal rather than a profit as a goal. Lots of good ideas arise on the internet that have a non-profit goal, that are there to solve real problems in the world, not as much aimed at making a profit, but solving those problems. However, a lot of those non-profit ideas don't carry the entrepreneurial spirit behind it, so they bog down somewhere in a swamp. They're a good idea, but nobody knows how to follow up, how to build a service around it, how to scale it up. And I think that also offers a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs. To give you a small example, it's literally small. The Net8 kit, developed here in the Netherlands, very fine idea. What this does is a little thingy that you plug into the internet, either wireless or wired, wherever you are in the world, and then you use this as your Wi-Fi access point, and you're automatically logged onto the Tor network. So you're automatically anonymized. For journalists all over the world, this is a must. It is a very user-friendly, you don't need any technical knowledge. Now, building products like this out into real products and making sure they can be available worldwide. That's a big challenge that also startups should be looking at and taking those and working with that. And with that, I think I've said enough about the chances of the internet. Thank you very much.
I think there are